Hello and welcome to Speightstown, a forgotten treasure. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. As always, I'm glad you've joined us. In our last program, we looked at the spirituality of Speightstown, taking note of the church's contribution to the area. We also took note of how the faith of this community was tested. Evidently, Speightstonians are very resilient people. That faith was once again tested in 1984. This town has always been a flood-prone area. Apart from the small amount of rainwater that flows towards the eastern side of the parish, the majority of the rainwater in St. Peter flows to the sea in or very near to Speightstown. History has recorded a number of floods that occurred here in this town over the years. But from recent memory, we can recall what might be termed the Great Flood of 1984. This program is made up of the sound bites and the sights associated with that unforgettable flood in 1984. We begin with Peggy McGeary.
It was a rude awakening. Of course, it was not the first time Speightstown flooded. Speightstown flooded in 1949. And that entire bridge over there by the salt pond, that fell in. That bridge was broken. I read that.
That flood was a Saturday night. And the rain fell, like the old people tell you, buckets of drops. Each drop was a bucket full. And it was so bad, the pond, the salt pond as we call it, was out. And unfortunately, the bridge gave way.
And I came out, and people said, the rain started to drizzle. But somebody said, the bridge broke down. But we had to stop and shelter. When the rain hold up a little, I remember it coming across, and I said, the bridge broke down. What? The bridge ain't break down. Somebody had to hold my hand because the middle of the bridge was broken down.
And they took two old people's lives that night. Miss Hines and my Aunt Emmeline. She was sort of retarded, but she was still linked with Miss Hines and helped Miss Hines go around with her stuff. And they were coming across the bridge, and when the bridge gave out.
And all the way we come up, we had water all in the road. All in the road, we had to walk through water to get home.
It didn't go right down. It went down on a slant like that. And they had then to, well, Miss Hines got her leg broken, but my aunt was all right. Nothing was wrong. And it was a scene that nobody ever seen in Barbados.
And I think it was my brother who said to me that, remember I mentioned a lady to you earlier, called Miss Briggs, a mulatto woman. She fell in. And guess when she died? At the second flood. Second flood. She died during that same week when we had that second flood in 1984.
I remember that.
Wednesday, October the 31st, 1984 broke like an ordinary day here in the life of Speightstown, as many individuals prepared to go about their daily business. The headlines in the two daily newspapers were about the assassination of the Indian Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, and reports about the official opening of the new Point Salines International Airport in Grenada. There was also a report about the parliamentary debate. The subject of that debate was the erection of stoplights here in historic Speightstown. The weather forecast in Barbados today will be cloudy all day. This is a result of an upper level trough, high and low, and remains quite stationary. Sunrise will be at 5:52 a.m., sunset at 5:32 p.m. Now, the rising of the sun and the setting of the same occurred quite differently over Speightstown on that eventful day, Wednesday, October the 31st, 1984.
In 1984, I was working in Sunset Crest at the bank, and I got a call saying that Speightstown was threatened by water. In those days, we didn't have any cell phones and the paraphernalia we have now. So by leaving work, normal time, and the bus got as far as Road View, I heard Speightstown was flooded.
I got a call from my brother who lived not directly in Speightstown, but just south of Speightstown. And he said to me that the place is flooding out. And I said, you know, is it dangerous? He said, things are looking really bad. So I tried to get to Speightstown. It was difficult getting to Speightstown because not only Speightstown was flooded, but areas south of Speightstown, you could hardly get to places like Mullins. There was so much water coming down.
I was told to get off in Road View. I would have to walk. I made up in my mind I have to get home one way or the other. So I put my things all in one bag and started to walk to Speightstown. When I got to Queen Street and I saw the water, I took off shoes, I took off pants, and put everything on my head and walked through until I got to Chapel Street, and the water was so high. By that time, I had seen a lot of things washed out in the road and people in light bottom, shallow bottom boats just coming down the street. And I got here after the worst of it, and I was still seeing a lot of it, which had me pretty shocked because all the houses in Chapel Street were washed out, save my own because it had the highest ground sill in the street. So all these houses in Chapel Street were flooded out, everyone. And I remember my father saying that the water came up to the top step. He and my mother were praying and the water went back down. So although the flood affected all of us in Speightstown, at least we were spared the calamity of having the flood waters come in the house.
An understanding of the geological makeup of the parish of St. Peter, making reference to the gullies, is very important in order for you to understand the flood which occurred here in 1984.
The Salt Pond area there is really mouth of a river. 3 or 4 of them coming from places like Indian Ground, Boscobel, and so on, and they meet in one at the Rim Gully. And they cut and come down through the rim.
The Rim Gully span is about 16 feet to 20 feet. A water course comes from Rotterdam. Yeah, a water course comes from Mile and Quarter. All them meet from Courtney Prairie, above Courtney Prairie, and meet in the rim. The rim got the water coming from Farley Hill. That's free. So when you come down now and you come to this little down there, but the little bridge there now, it can't go through that little hole. So build a dam. And then before, when the water ran off, they had bags about 20 feet up in the air. So that was how the water was. That boy still didn't take it serious. Any tree that come now across them 3 holes, the water spread. Then we got water coming now from Church Street Garden. That coming here to the junction here. So it's just like traffic. The main force from Farley Hill coming down. These bypass waters that are coming in have to wait the traffic. So then they push back.
That was a real serious flood because it was in Speightstown, the time of the flood. I think what really caused most of the flooding in Speightstown at that time is due to the canal that we had out there. I don't know what to say, probably the engineering wasn't good enough or and like the debris from the gullies, that's why they tell people to stop dumping stuff into the gullies, right? A lot of stuff going on. Like the water, like it was probably get dammed.
People said the rain in Speightstown was not falling that much. But I remember all of Gill's land. This is the area like behind the Salvation Army. People lost things. Even the area we call around the town. When the water came over that bridge, it took whole houses away.
And I ran home in Mangaline. And then I hear woman Miss Hope holler out, "Wow!" I run to my front door and see 20 inches of water coming in my driveway like this along. And flood the hole up on my house.
The water broke then it came down. And I can remember going around the town. On that road was actually impassable with water. When we get to the bridge, the water we almost lost one of we friends in that flood because we going across the bridge. You know, we was youngsters and we there and we out in the water, we crossing the bridge. And you could hardly see the water was so high you could hardly see. They got some iron poles that I saw the bridge when we going over. And something happened and he barely thing over and somebody had to grab him by his pants for me to get he back on. If not, he would have gone straight down to the sea.
I think there was a man with a car who had lived his whole life hoping to buy a car and finally got one. And he didn't keep it for very long. It was so badly damaged.
I remember they had a guy, they say, trying to save a pig or something like that. And he got, the water was coming straight down the sea.
29-year-old Oriel Worrell from round the town. His body was found in the water in the canal which runs into the salt pond. A number of curious people gathered in the area this morning to get a glimpse of the body, which was discovered around 8 a.m. People are still viewing some of the damage caused by the flood waters. The old Haywoods Bridge has a large crack and is now completely impassable. But it's not only housing and livestock that's suffering from the effects of the rain. Farmers too are complaining. Fields of cane in St. Lucie and St. Peter are under a foot of water in some areas, and many young cane plants are being washed away.
And not only the cane plants, several other items were washed away. But a number of these ended up on other people's properties. Could we say the artifacts of the Speightstown flood?
A house floated down Church Street and stopped right in front of my mother's house. Whereupon the water piled up behind that house, made a short right dash as it, separated, and one of the separations around the house was through my mother's front door. We found a pig in our yard. We found people's cutlery. We found plates, whole ceramic plates that we didn't know where they came from. We found clothes. There were so many things in our yard.
A man named Mr. Hinkson, he passed away now. Each time he hear a roaring and roaring, he went in the front door and look. And sometimes he run and get up in tree. That he ain't seen the water. He said somebody just told him to run. He left his house and ran, climb. And when he got to the top of the tree and looked back, a 4-bedroom wooden house was gone. And he didn't see nothing. Not even bathroom or wall and everything was gone.
They had a house below the Wesley Holiness Church in that area. And when we got in Speightstown, that house was further down all in the road. I talking about a whole down by Pharmaco, further going about Eddie's where Banner was down there by the wholesale. That house got moved from there, all down there.
I remember day after the flood, lots of water still around. And I went to the spot where that house was moved from. All that was left was the pipe in the yard. And the hose that was attached to the pipe was stretched out straight as the water dragged it. So you can imagine the kind of force. Of course, the pipe was buckled and bent, but you can imagine the kind of force of water that came down there and literally took that house off its props.
I thought we came from that time. Eddie's wasn't here. The water was all up to Eddie's, the glass, the water level in the building was so high, all up to the glass.
It come down to this tree. I call him a different kind of hole. Down here. I swam down, no, Chapel Street. Come across with bits, no, come to Fisherman's Pub. See the corny building? That is always left of Fisherman's Pub.
They had houses above, around the town, up there where so do the smoking and thing too. Houses get washed away, actually get damaged. All that was left. One guy all he found was like a side in the house that was laying down, and he was so lucky that his wallet in a pants that he had, that is the only part of the house that he saved, and with his wallet with his money in it. He was a lucky fellow, I think. But that was really disaster, and all the houses through Gil's Terrace had to evacuate. You can imagine water in the house, water level in the houses almost. People had to get out. People had to get out today. And then after that, all the mud, the water, all the debris, the mud. Out there was that was a state.
The town had such a stink for days, with all the mud and some dead animals and all the other things that were washed out in the water. It was a lot of cleaning, a lot of disinfectant, a lot of bleach, a lot of cleaning. The church itself got damaged and we had to clean that. I think because we marked really high water. As a matter of fact, the level of the wall was really water. Yes, when you look at the level of the wall, where we have there, that was the level of the water because it went straight into church, and you could look right down, see how, that was the level, how all down here got it. Even this present building we were in was spared. The water came to the top step and this as well, because these are more or less on the same, on par, these two, next to each other. But all the other houses got washed out.
There were many questions not only here in Speightstown but throughout the entire island. Why did the flood occur here in Speightstown? What did we do wrong? What did we fail to do? Many held the view that it was as a result of poor drainage.
Mr. Johnson says the destruction caused by the water wasn't as a result of poor drainage.
This did not occur because of the water not going off fast enough. This happened because perhaps for the first time in living memory, we've had approximately 15 inches of rain within the period of about 10 hours in this area. There is no physical accommodation that the Ministry of Transport and Works or anybody else could have provided to deal with this, what we would describe as a natural disaster.
Now, with Peggy's knowledge of what the normal flow of water was here in Speightstown, she took a walk around the town and carried out her own investigations to find out what could have possibly caused the flooding here in her beloved hometown.
And as I walked to look at where the culverts were and all of that, and I did this because it was curiosity. Anything like that happens, there's always for me a curiosity as to why it happened. And I looked at the area on what we call it under the bridge around the town where the bridge is. That whole area from the level of the road down was piled with wood, trees, bits and pieces of the side of buildings, which were most likely dumped in gullies higher up. There were car batteries, there were car parks, and all of this beds formed a mesh and blocked the path of water coming down, whereupon it backed up and just took whatever path it could have taken. And so all of Church Street, Gills Road residents suffered greatly. Down here was a mess.
Any time of that flood, Shafet and them people wasn't there yet, you know. And you see right there, like where Shafet and with the gas all about it, that was like a lake, you know, a lake. You can see no signs of that, and you don't know what exists on it. You can see it was a whole lake because it was not. I tell you, that was a. Yeah, that caused thousands of dollars. People lost equipment, livestock, even had loss of life. But that was serious. I wouldn't like to experience nothing like that again. That's the honest to God truth.
Sir Arnott Cato was at that time the acting Governor General of Barbados. On November the 1st, 1984, the day after the flood, he visited Speightstown and toured the affected areas. Among these was Gills Terrace.
When Sir Arnott Cato arrived in the hardest hit areas of St. Peter, this was the scene. His first stop was at Gills Terrace, and he encountered mass debris, including broken walls and fallen trees. The acting Governor General also spoke to residents woeful about their misfortune. Another area visited by the acting Governor General's touring party was around the town. The destruction to property here is immense, and residents estimate their individual losses into thousands of dollars. This is what Gail Cave had to say about her losses.
All the furniture and whatnot have been damaged. I recently brought out a press and everything from Modern Living that has been matched up and everything. I would say a good 5 to 10 pounds would not repair our home, because like the clothing and what's not is damaged as well. There's some school children that go to school here, their clothes and everything is gone.
Many houses like this one were forced from their foundations and deposited some distance away. The water was about 5 feet high here. A young man, Gladstone Canterbury, who helped to rescue some of the people in the area, gives an account of his experience.
People just scream and so forth and try to run with their life and children and what they could really catch up. Well, in this area here, the water rose up to my neck. Me and two more guys, we tried to evacuate the people from this area. And there was the old man and the old lady who didn't really want to move, right? But we had to force them to move. Unfortunately for us, the water came right up to throat level. So there was no way that they could have stopped him, so we had to try our best, put them on our heads and our shoulders and take them to safety.
Sir Arnott thanked the volunteer agencies and other individual organizations who came to the aid of the flood victims and expressed his sympathy to the relatives of the young man who lost his life by drowning. Sir Arnott was accompanied on his tour by Chairman of CERO, Algie Simmons, Superintendent Harold Jones, and Major Florence Gittins. Meanwhile, in a rain-drenched Speightstown, some residents were busily trying to complete their Saturday shopping before more heavy showers forecasted for today forced them back indoors. Cheryl Brathwaite, World Scene.
Meanwhile, Barbadians responded favorably to a call for donations of emergency material for the flood victims of Speightstown.
Most relief organizations agree that the response for the supply of emergency materials has been encouraging. At the Red Cross Society today, workers were preparing bundles of clothing to send to Speightstown. Senior Commandant Olga Hoyt says lots of clothes have been pouring into the society.
But the food stuff is a bit slow, which we would really like more food stuff so we can get them packed off and give to the people, right?
Have you been able to send out any of the material yet?
Well, the only thing we could send out just so far will be the, some stuff, food stuff. We had bread and cakes and so yesterday. We sent them down last night by the Defense Force. And so far this morning, we sent down packages of children's clothing, for the children. And we have more clothing here now to send down.
One of the people involved in the Speightstown Relief Committee, Patricia Simmons, also says her organization has received very good response at the collection center on Robert Street, where the legal section of the National Housing Corporation used to be. Many people have also made pledges to the relief fund, which has been opened at all branches of the Barbados National Bank. There has also been a good response to the call from the Democratic League of Women for emergency materials, and President Maisie Welch is spearheading that drive. Collections are also being made at the Democratic Labour Party headquarters, at the St. Michael West branch office, and at Mrs. Welch's home on Accommodation Road, Bashaw. Meanwhile, yet another organization is offering assistance to the people of St. Peter. Tomorrow, the Speightstown Seventh-day Adventist Church will open its doors between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. to give food and clothing. Emmanuel Joseph, World Scene.
The next major flood here in historic Speightstown occurred in 1998.
I can remember at that time I was going to school at Alexandra and walking, I can remember that day the rain just started to pour and I couldn't even believe it, but I actually saw pigs, animals, coming down through the river down there, the little river coming down through there.
The water coming down from the canal and the gas station. When you look at the gas station, you could see all the chips and like all. I talk about water. I talk the water level. I talk the whole gas station itself, the water level to that height and things. But I talk things actually float out. That day, people got a lot of free gas because the gas from the gas station all down through by the boys' school, gas bottle, gas flow, all gas. Empty cylinders and cylinders. People had gas. You could see people, I thought free gas, all like snacks, all the, wouldn't get a whole disaster. And that wasn't as bad as the one before. And I can remember when I came here by the canal right here next to the fisherman pub. There's a guy next to the where the gas station is there now, where the canal is. Yeah. There's a man that got a lot of sheep there, a roller. Yeah. He's sheep kind of thing there. This man has some billies, I tell you some. That's the first time, I've never seen nothing like that in my life yet.
I actually see an owner actually diving in the water. The river, the water really coming down. And I saw he even going for his sheep and pigs and things.
the elements water is so strong and so devastating. I tell you, the water was like rushing down through the canal. And while the water rushing, I don't know, you see the water, and in the mist, I talking about, I don't know how much it was, but I talking about big sheep, just like, just like getting rumble, tumble, straight out to sea, and all out there was like the muddy, all the roller sheep get washed from out the pen, straight out to sea. That man lost so many sheep. And this sheep was so big, and the way how that was like, so I sorry they had it on camera. To see that happen, like as an experience. And them animals are big, and the way how the water like paper, like just thing, and people lost their cars at that time too. People had cars that were parked at the house, the water, so, cars were completely submerged. You couldn't even see the cars. They had to wait till the water go off.
I saw it flooding myself. Even we going on through Speightstown, we going on through past Eddie's, going on through there, down to the bottom, Churchy Cafe, you couldn't even get on through there. The water was like to your thigh, getting up to your chest, and at first, the water wasn't gushing as it coming like one time. It was like rising. I even see cars when cars had to turn around, go up to my man's instead of coming straight across with the bus stand. And that was a serious time. I actually, to be honest with you, that's the first time I actually see people in the north really coming together to help one another, who are actually really like, it ain't like we don't know you, we don't know this body. We try to help everybody. We try to get people across. Even like people that are passerbys are trying to help one another. And to me, it was real serious. And as a man who's living in Speightstown every day, I would never let to see that happen again.
That really shake up Speightstown, set back a lot. After that flood happened, that after the first one, people had still went back. And I don't know.
This house belongs to Euclida Wharton. It's one of the most badly damaged houses in the area. The floodwaters have left it covered in mud, wrecked furniture, sheets, and all kinds of treasured possessions. This is her tale of the flood.
I stopped there crying and holding him, screaming, saying, I can't swim good, I can't swim good. My dad said, you have to try, mommy, jump, man. My son said to jump, but we jumped through then. And when it was coming out, the current started to pull us. I decided I'm going to try to swim. Couldn't make it then. I said, well, I got to get it somehow. If I'm trying to swim and I can't make it, let's try to see if we could crawl through it somehow.
The family has been living here for 11 years, and she isn't sure about what's going to happen next.
And I don't know, but don't care what happened. Some people just, they ain't plan to leave, when you're born somewhere for a long whole time, they love getting stairs, but that's a very dangerous area when we get a lot of rain.
Point at the water mark, man.
Look, that was one.
Go to
84, that mark there in 1984.
And where is it now?
The mark still up on the wall if you want to say watch
no,
what you say.
right there. Just go
there's a mark here now for 98. For 98, for 84 mark is fine. 84 was up there, all up there, 84.
Go on, look in the house.
Come on. Come. Take a trip. Take a look. Point him up. Point and show you. Point and show you down there. All this.
Open the door.
Everything from the TV, every scan up.
Well, as fate would have it, a few years after the 1984 flood here in Speightstown, Peggy McGarry pursued a course in environmental science at the Cayfield campus of the University of the West Indies. She prepared a paper on disaster, and in conducting her research, she realized
that proposals had been made before about deepening the channels, leading from the salt pond, and it has been done now, but at that time it wasn't done, and a lot of people suffered. There was a proposal that suggested that there should have been wells so that when the water came down, some of it could be disposed of down in these wells, and that the water could have been used later and all of that. There was a whole plan, and it never got off the ground. But we're not learning as a nation sometimes. People are still dumping in gullies, and I don't think that they understand the importance of not doing that. Gullies are our waterways, and sometimes they're dumping things that have chemicals, and that water is getting into the sea. So just, a little environmental plug. When you're going into the sea now, you don't know what you're bathing in, because we're still dumping all the car batteries, car parts, and all sorts of strange things that it is sad, you know, and especially in a country where we have a garbage system that comes around and collects things, or where you can call somebody and say, come for this. It is really, really sad.
The havoc wreaked by the flood overshadowed the political drama that was hanging over the parish for the previous 3 months, following the inconclusive July 19th by-election between the Democratic Labour Party's Sybil Leacock and the Barbados Labour Party's Owen Arthur. After the flood came the high drama of the second by-election, which will become the subject of our next program. Like the efforts at rebuilding the church here in the early 80s, there are many lessons you can learn from the flood which occurred here in 1984. May we not allow those lessons to become part of Speightstown's forgotten treasures. I'm Sherwood McCaskey.